welcome to the second tutorial on BlenderBasics.com, the primary website for Blender for Dummies. I'm Jason Van Gumster, and this tutorial is building upon the Modeling an Eye tutorial from Chapter 5 that I posted not too long ago. And we're going to be using material indices to put some basic materials on the eye that was modeled there. So, we have our eye here, and the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create some materials and some indices for it. So first things first, we notice that there are 0 materials on this eye right now, just a default thing, but there's really no materials on it. So just to keep ourselves set here, I'm going to say new, and that's going to give us our default material to start with. And what we'll do here is I'm going to tab into edit mode so we can create some more indices. The next one, of course, we're going to work with is the lens, which is here. So I'm going to select nothing by hitting A, and then I want to select just the lens. And since the lens is not really attached to the eye, I can hit L on it and it will just select those vertices because those are the ones that are linked or connected, which is a good mnemonic for L. L is linked. These will be the basis of my lens material. To set that one up, I'll just hit New, and then I will assign it. So now it's assigned. It doesn't look like it did much, but we have 2 materials here. 2 materials. This is the second one. And you can tell that they're that. If I hit A and I hit select here, it selects those materials. If I hit A again and go back to the first material of 2, I'll select that, and that selects everything else. So we know that this is working properly. What I want to do now is I want to get the iris and the pupil set up. To do that, I need to get the lens out of the way. So I'm going to reselect that by hitting L, and then I'm going to hide it by hitting H. Now I have the rest of my eye here, and my iris is going to consist of this edge loop, by hitting Alt, right click, and then if I Shift Alt, right click this one, I have my iris selected. All I have to do is the same process, New, Assign, and my third material is going to be my iris. Now I need to get my pupil. Now you notice I can't select this vertex back here. Well, nope, I still can't select that vertex back there because the geometry is in the way. To actually get around to selecting it, I can hit Z to go into wireframe for a second, then I select it, and you notice that it's still selected here. Now if I Shift Alt right click this edge loop here, now I have the vertices that will be creating my pupil, and I'll just say New and Assign. Alright, so now for our own basic memory here, we've got the fourth material of 4 is our pupil. Select this. The third material of 4 is our iris. So deselect this. If I hit Alt H to unhide everything, then that's already still selected. Our second material of 4 is our lens. And, oh, selected the wrong one here. And our first material is the eye base. Cool. Now let's actually get some of these materials on this thing. So let's deal with the eye first, the base eye. To do that, we go to our shading buttons, which is also F5, and the eye itself is going to be pretty much all right. I'm going to hit Tab to go back into object mode here, but we want it not to be gray. We want this to be white. And also, in addition to it being white, let's adjust some of our shaders here. We're going to want this to be, let's give it a little bit sharper highlight with the Ward ISO, and adjust our, we don't need, Lambert's pretty much fine for this, I think. Actually, if we do Nair and then reduce our roughness a bit more, that'll give us a little bit more shine and increase our specularity a touch. That helps that out. Now what we're going to want to do is actually work with the lens. So, and actually let's go ahead and name this. This is eye white. Now let's go ahead and deal with our lens. So if I go forward to our second material, I'm going to go ahead and just name this one lens. Pretty much the same sort of deal, but we want it to be transparent. So first, I think we're going to go ahead and use Ward ISO on here to get us a nice sharp highlight there. Increase our specularity just a touch. Maybe reduce this a little bit, make it a little finer. And where we do our transparency, of course, is going to be under mirror transparency. Set it to ray trans. Doesn't look like it does a whole lot here. Now we could adjust our alpha, but a nicer way of doing this is to increase the Fresnel. Let's say doing it to about 3 something's fine. So pushing that up to 3 gives us a nice little edge there. It's a little dark there, so I'm going to drop our alpha just a touch there. but it's still not distorted there. So if we increase our index of refraction just a touch, there is a specific number for the lens of an eye, but I don't know it off the top of my head, so I'm just going to set it to something that looks about good, just enough to give me a little distortion. Now I have my lens taken care of, but I can't really see the transparency here. It'd be nice if I could. Fortunately, there's a way in Blender. If you go over here to the object buttons and click on trans, now we can see through it. This will help us when we're setting up the iris, so we can actually see what colors we're dealing with here. Now to take care of this, I'm going to go over here back to our shading buttons and go to our iris, which I will name here iris. And let's pick a good color for this. Let's say some green eyes, some sort of vibrant green going on there. There we go. You can actually see on the other side of the lens it gets green, and we don't need any of that, but we should probably, let's increase our specularity a bit and keep it not so hard. Maybe like that. Give it a little bit of spread. That should make it look kind of nice for us. And the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to deal with the pupil. So we just go forward to the fourth material of 4. Name it pupil. Always name things. It's very, very important. It'll make your life a lot easier in the future. And for the pupil, it doesn't have to reflect. It doesn't have to create any shadows. It doesn't have to do anything special. So I'm just going to go shadeless and set it to black. And it's just going to be solid black. Alright, well that's a good start. We could do a test render now, but I think my light's in the wrong place. So I'm going to go to 7, which is the top view. That's 7 on the numpad. And I'm going to select my light, and I'm going to pull it to the front. If I hit Shift-Z, I can get a better idea of what the light's actually doing. I can pull this over here, and let's say grab Z, pull it down a little bit. Maybe pull it over here a little. And let's try and do a basic 3-point lighting setup here just to give ourselves some fun here. So I'm going to duplicate this light by hitting Shift-D, pull it over here. But this second light I'm going to pull down underneath, and I don't need nearly as much light from it, so I'm going to hit 0.5 on this. And I'm also going to turn off the specularity from it, so I don't have 2 specular highlights, I just need the 1. And let's turn off our shadowing on it, because it's just going to create the light. But I still need one more light, I think, in the back for a decent 3-point lighting setup. So I'm just going to duplicate this one, hit Shift-D, pull it in the back, and I'm going to change it to a Hemi, and I'm going to clear the rotation on it. I want it to face this way. So if I hit Alt-R, that clears its rotation, has it pointing face down. Go into side view by hitting 3 on the numpad, and I'm going to rotate this by 90 degrees or so. And it doesn't need to be positioned, but I like to keep it so I can see where it's going. So alright, and I'm going to set this up to 1 because I like getting a nice little rim light on the back of that thing. So that should get us that, and if I go back to my camera view by hitting 0 on my numpad, I can zoom in my camera, right click the edge of the camera, hit G, and if I middle click, it'll pull me in closer. If I hit G again, I can drag over here, and if I hit R and then middle click again, I have full control over my view. Maybe I'll put it about like that. Rotate it again. Something like so should be nice. And while I'm here, let's get rid of this horrible blue. Set this down to a gray, I think, and blend it out so you get this nice little gradient going on. So that's a good start for that. And before we render it, instead of rendering to a render window, I'm going to go straight to the image editor. It's a little bit nicer. So I'm going to hit, actually, rather than image editor, let's go straight full screen. That'll be even nicer. So I hit F12 here, or just hit the render button, pop that open, and we'll see how this eye renders. Huh, not too shabby. We have some weird shadowing going on the iris here, and the reason for that is because, strangely enough, even though we have a transparent lens, it's casting a shadow on the iris, which is not really something we want. So to get around that, there are actually 2 things you can do. I'm going to hit F11 to go back to my 3D view here, and I'm going to go back to my materials and select my eye. And I want to go, the problem is you can fix it one of 2 ways, and I like to do it both ways just to be sure. One, we know that our lens is casting a shadow. So if I go to the lens material, which is our second one, you see lens, I can actually turn off the shadow buffer on it. It takes off the shadow buffer, so it won't cast a shadow. The other thing that I can do is go to the iris material and make it so it can receive transparent shadows. Either one of these work. I tend to do both because it's just an assurity thing for me. Now that we have that, I can hit F12 again, and it should render out fairly nicely for us. Oh, there you go. There's a basic eyeball with plays well with some lights for us there, and you can take this as a basic starting point for nearly any project, for any eye, for any character, and later on you can do textures on the actual iris, you can add vertex paint for the back of the eye, and have all sorts of fun making it a really, really solid eye. But as a starting point for any character, this works great. This is actually what I use for pretty much everything I do. Alright, hope this has been helpful. Again, this is BlenderBasics.com. I'm Jason Van Gumster, and I'll see you in another tutorial.